Okay, now for some perspective. Joining us for a look back on the year in business as well as a look ahead into 2006, we welcome Jeff Colvin, Senior Editor-at-Large from Fortune magazine. Jeff, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Let's start with something that's been on everybody's minds, I guess, especially in the last half of 2005. What's going on with gas prices at the pump? I mean, we saw a huge spike after Hurricane Katrina. It's throttled back somewhat now. Right. Home heating oil, natural gas, still very high, still a big problem for the economy.
It's a big problem for a lot of individuals, for a lot of consumers, just because refining capacity is not very plentiful in this country. People don't think about it very much, but an awful lot of our gasoline and other oil products are refined outside the United States. Well, total global demand really affects how much of that is available for us. Now,
and that never used to be the case.
No, it didn't used to be the case. But, you know, year after year, we haven't built a refinery in the United States in over 20 years. Now, when gas prices went up right after Katrina, this was a huge crisis, or so people thought. It's important to remember, gas prices today are lower than they were before Katrina happened. But heating oil prices are high. People are bothered by it. And look, we're going to have to live with this. Global demand for oil is very high, largely because of China, and it's not going to go down.
The sleeping giant, the Asian giant, is awakening, and it's having just amazing
effects on demand, not only for oil, but for cement, aluminum, wood, steel.
All the raw materials.
A part of the reason we can't get enough oil and gasoline here is because the ships are not available. Why are the ships not available? Because you need steel to build them, and the steel isn't available because of the demand in China. So this is a huge multi-layered effect.
And we can expect that to continue.
It's going to continue. It's simply not going to change.
Let's talk about something that happened just a couple of days ago. We had something that economists understand a little bit better than I do, but the interest rate curve, where in effect long-term rates for the 30-year bonds and so forth, actually moved lower than short-term rates.
Right.
Now, what does that mean to Joe Sixpack?
Well, this is a tough thing to relate to Joe Sixpack a little bit, because it's one of those things that normally nobody talks about except the real experts on Wall Street, the so-called yield curve. It's really very simple. All it means is that interest rates for 20 and 30-year bonds are usually kind of high because you're going to wait 20 or 30 years to get your money back. Well, there's a lot of risk in waiting 20 or 30 years.
You tie it up, you should be compensated.
You have to be compensated for that risk. Whereas 1 or 2 year bonds, lower risk, lower interest rates. Well, what happened was that went backwards. The interest rates on the 20 and 30-year bonds are actually now lower than interest rates on the 1 and 2 year bonds. What does that mean? Well, it means that the market thinks things are going to be kind of slow in the economy going a few years out. In other words, maybe forecasting a recession.
What do you think? Are you forecasting a recession here and now?
No, I'm actually not. I really am not. It has to be said, actually, something you rarely hear. The economy looks pretty good right now. If you look at all the numbers, economic growth, productivity, unemployment, you'd have to say the economy is looking pretty strong. Now, could we have a recession? Well, we could, but I don't see any reason to expect it. So,
a lot of people have their major investment tied up where they live, in their homes. And there has been talk of a real estate bubble.
Right.
Are we at the top of the real estate market in most of the country? And if this is, I mean, if you have an investment property, or let's say if you've got a house, you have an opportunity to rent somewhere, and you don't mind moving, is this a good time to get out?
If you live in one of those superheated markets, and I can't mention all of them, but we all know San Diego, Miami, Las Vegas, and a few others are superheated markets. My own view, and this is somewhat controversial in the real estate industry, but my own view is this is clearly a bubble. It is indeed an unsustainably high level of prices. And so to answer your question directly, if you have a chance to sell and you can rent instead, you know, look, depending on the requirements of your job and your family and so forth, if you could really do this, it's probably not a bad time to do it. Now, I always say, you can't time the market precisely, and you may end up kicking yourself for a year if prices continue to go up for a year. But then I always say, remember what Bernard Baruch said when he was asked how he got so rich. He said, I always sold too soon.
Sage advice.
Yes, it is.
Let's talk about the other market, the stock market.
The stock market.
Where do you think it's going to go? If I am going to sell my primary residence, cash out, put some of it in the market. What's going to look good this year?
People like you and me should not be putting money in the market unless we can leave it there for a good long time. And by that I mean 5 years, 10 years, or even more. If you ask me what the market's going to do in the next 6 months or 12 months or 2 years, I will tell you, first of all, I don't know, and second of all, nobody else knows either. But you and I, if we're going to go into the stock market, should go in it for a good long time. And in my view, the evidence is overwhelming. We should not try to pick individual stocks. In other words, we should invest in the market, meaning an index fund that owns essentially every stock. Buy it and forget about it. Years from now, have a look at it.
We have time to look quickly at another issue that's going to affect a lot of consumers in the early part of 2006. More and more banks are starting now to increase the minimum payments on credit card balances.
Credit cards, right.
Doubling them in some cases.
Right, and you have to understand they're doing this not because they want to, but under pressure from regulators. The regulators are doing this because they think they are helping consumers. They want to help consumers. Because the truth is, if you make the minimum payment on a credit card, it can take you 40 years or more to pay it all off. The regulators say that's crazy. You should have to pay off more each month so it doesn't take so long. Problem is, those higher payments could hurt.
So thank you for that help, regulators. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Jeff Colvin, Senior Editor-at-Large for Fortune Magazine. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.